Hour for this fantastic May 13th, 2020, in a special edition here for CreatorCon. I'm Andrew Barnes, and let me go ahead and introduce the other host here today. We'll start with Brad.
Hey everybody, Brad Tilton. I'm a developer advocate here at the Developer Program with ServiceNow. I've been doing ServiceNow development work for a while now, and I'm excited to be a part of CreatorCon through LiveCode.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Let's go, Andrew.
Hey, my name's Andrew Aubrey-Dorr. I'm a developer MVP for this year, and I've been working on the platform for about 4 years. I work for an insurance company in Australia, in Brisbane.
Awesome. And Jared?
Hey, good morning or afternoon, wherever you're watching. This is Jared Munt. Focus on platform, internals, integrations, and security with Finite Partners.
Awesome. And I'm Andrew Barnes, developer advocate at ServiceNow, team with Brad here. And I have been on the platform for over 5 years, specialize in large scale development teams, managing their work efforts, custom integrations, and do a lot of stuff around Flow Designer and custom apps. So this is Live Code Happy Hour. What does that mean? So this show is aired every Friday, typically, in 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern. We typically show this on YouTube and Twitch. We'll share the links to that. So if you're watching in the Knowledge Digital Experience platform, we'll share those there for you, so you can join us. Our next show will be this Friday, so 2 days from now. And we don't do, this is not a polished demo. We completely do unscripted ServiceNow development work live. So we don't pre-bake things. We don't pull rabbits out of our hats. We haven't practiced this stuff. We haven't done it before. We take a real problem that we're having, and we as a group, so one of us will share their screen, and we'll start solving that problem. We'll run into weird and unusual errors and problems just as any other developer does. And what we're trying to show is how even professional, experienced ServiceNow developers run into problems, unexpected problems, and expected problems, and how they solve them. So what are we doing today, Brad?
Well, that's a great question. I think we're going to do the first part of a two-part requirement today, where we try to grab some COVID data. We're going to grab it and pull it into ServiceNow. And then the next part of it is going to be showing that data in a component.
Awesome. And so what's a component?
Ooh, that's a great question. A component is it's a building block of our new Now Experience UI framework that came out in Orlando. The framework is made out of UI components that you can develop locally on your machine and then deploy into your instance. There are a number of components that are available in Orlando by default, and then you can create your own components. So it's a way to create your own UI.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to get to today. And typically on our show, we also, it's a happy hour show. So at least for us on the East Coast in the US, it's time. And we typically do this on Fridays. So this is how we get into our weekend, is we do some drinking occasionally and ServiceNow development. Especially Andrew, he's just waking up. He probably won't be drinking beverage with us, but we all introduce what we're drinking. Sometimes that's water. It doesn't matter what you're drinking. Just join in with us and share. There is a drink for CreatorCon this week. Tell us what that is before we introduce ours, Brad. Well, in fact, that is what yours is, so you can do it first.
I am drinking that. This is the, I have a weird glass for mine. I think we're calling it the something dump. I can't remember the name of it. The core dump. That's right. Thanks. It is gin, lime juice, and simple syrup. And I think you can find the recipe probably all over our social channels.
Awesome. And back in the same order for everyone else. So Andrew?
You were right. I am not drinking right now. I had a few last night in honor of the show this morning, but I have a triple espresso iced coffee. It's a local brand. That's what I'm drinking.
Jared?
Very good. I took the official drink as an inspiration. I'm doing my own lime sparkling water this afternoon. Spindrift just lime.
Awesome. And I've got a blueberry boyfriend. And it's a very fun graphic on this thing. I've never had this before. And so at the end of the show, we hopefully are victorious and we rate our beers, and they get ratings boosts for when we do well, and they get sadness ratings when we don't. So, the ratings aren't always clearly tied to how good the beverage of choice is. I see folks are sharing what they're joining in with us. We've got black tea. I saw Dos Equis. I saw some other things in the chat. Go ahead and share that with us. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Just join in and let us know what you have. Are you ready to share, Brad, or do we want to talk about the problem set a little bit more?
Yeah, let's talk about the problem a little more.
All right. So we have a desire on our landing page for our workspace to add in some information. And when we looked, we noticed that we didn't really have a way to consume the data that we wanted. So we need to build a new component for that. And so if you're not familiar, in Orlando, ServiceNow has released the Now Experience design system. And part of that is component building. And if you watched the CreatorCon keynote, that was highlighted on there. Chris Haas showed how to do that. We are going to build an API to provide data to our component. So we're not going to start with our component. We're going to start with the consumption of some exterior APIs, and we're going to surface that inside the platform. We kicked around some ideas on how to do that today, and we're going to dive in with what we think, but we'll also adjust on the fly because, again, this is completely unscripted. So if it looks like this is unpolished and unfinished, it's because it is. And that's the point of it. So if you're looking for a beautiful, perfect demo on how to do this, this is not for you. But if you want to learn how to get through situations like that, this is the place for you. In order to provide that component data, I think we talked about that we would use a scripted REST API. And so we'll start with that. And then we'll reach out to our exterior system. And that's going to be a REST API that we're hitting. So we talked about we'll probably use Flow Designer's Action Builder for that because it's a nice way to get up to integrations really fast. Any questions about that plan? Do y'all see any caveats there that we need to worry about?
Not without knowing more, just the usual integration things. So what kind of authentication do we have to deal with? And tokens and status codes and the usual things, but no, let's jump in.
All right. Well, let's start the screen share then, Brad.
All right. I will go ahead and share this screen.
We got some Cherry Coke Zeros out there and Starbucks and water and whiskey. And oh, thanks for sharing with us.
All right. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. All right. I can see it on the YouTube. So I'm going to start on the developer portal here. We have a lot of things on the developer portal. This is where you can get an instance to play around with. And if you have not visited this site yet, you definitely should. But if when we said things about components, you were interested and didn't know anything about that yet, you can learn more about components by clicking on the reference menu and clicking into Now Experience UI Framework under APIs. We also have a library available. But if you want to learn more about components, you can click into that. We're going to talk more about components on Friday. But for today, we're going to be really focused on building our integration. And the reason, we're going to hopefully build a scripted REST API that calls a Flow Designer action that's going to consume an external REST API. And you may be asking, why don't we just consume that external REST API from our component? And it's because we want to massage the data a little bit before we give it to our component. So we don't want to do all of that from within the component when ServiceNow provides Flow Designer, IntegrationHub, and our action designer for doing that sort of thing. So where do we want to start with the action? Do we want to look at the external API first? Where do you guys think we should start?
It's good to know what we're looking at. I'd like to have a look at the API.
Let's look at the API. So I should grab that API.
Sorry, through your curveball.
No, that's where I wanted to start, and then I realized that I don't have that API link handy, but I believe this is it.
That is the endpoint that we looked at using today. Absolutely.
All right. So I think we are going to consume this API, and we're going to pull in some COVID-related data into our instance. So this is what we're going to end up hitting. All right. Yeah. So let's start. Should we start with our action or our scripted REST API?
Let's start with the scripted REST API. Let's start with the action, actually. Let's start with the action.
I second that. Just go in order of the data.
There we go. The action will let us grab the data, and then we can generate some code to use in our scripted REST API. So what's the name of this? That's a weird name. I'm just going to call it COVID data. I did create an application earlier, so we could just do all of this in a scoped application. So we'll go ahead and create this action. In our action designer here, we've got inputs and outputs, and then I can hit the plus sign, and we've got all of these different steps that we can use. And I believe we're going to use our REST step. All right, and then so we've got our REST step going here. Andrew, what should we do now? Oh, which Andrew am I talking to?
Yeah.
Either of you. Where should we go?
So in that external API, I noticed earlier that they have a open API or Swagger file, as it used to be called, under the API console, I believe. Nope, documentations maybe. So I sent you, I sent you the Swagger. So I think you already have that. Don't load that one.
I do already have it, but this is what it looks like. So I'm going to grab the one that you had already sent me.
Yeah, how important is the difference between the API spec 2.0 and 3.0 when we're playing with this action?
I don't know.
I haven't tried it with the older.
So we have some chats that say maybe zoom out. Should we?
Yeah, we're having a little.
I'm zoomed in pretty far. I'm going to zoom out one
Yeah.
time, and we'll see if that gets a little better.
It's the broadcast, not the. So you have opened Flow Designer, and we're in the creating a new action in Flow Designer. I'll talk through a little of it so that maybe we can give people enough context until we can get the aspect right.
All right.
And in Action Designer, we added a step, a REST step, and with our REST steps in Flow Designer, we can build integrations with external systems. Yeah, zooming it like that isn't going to be helpful, Brad.
We got a little more room.
So, but if the external system has Open API, you can import that here under the request details area. So instead of manually setting up our resource path and base URL, etc., we can use Open API to import an Open API.
So
very cool feature.
I have the API dump, it looks like here. I've not done an Open API before. What do I do? The button?
Check that import method at the top.
Yeah, at the top, you're going to want to paste it in.
There we go. All right. This looks promising. Let's click import, see what happens here. We are thinking.
People in the chat
nice.
are saying we've had a stream crash.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, both YouTube and the event page say that they've lost live.
Are we back? Earl says we're back, maybe.
Yep.
I think we should be.
On YouTube at least. All right.
All right. Lots of confirmation that we are back. So to recap, we have used the Open API spec to paste into the API source. We picked this today cases API operation, and what it did for us was gave us some query parameters, and it auto-populated this input variable, which is like the coolest part of this to me, because I always forget to create input and output variables and then run into that at some point. So we have country. I wonder if we change this to maybe active cases. It has the same input variable here. Maybe the Open API did break OBS. We'll see. And then we've got the headers there. So, whoa, what just happened? So I'm going to save this. And what do we think it's wanting when it comes to country here? What if we try to test this?
Try Australia.
Australia?
Yeah, but are we looking for like a 2-character or 3-character ISO code, or?
I don't know.
That is a good question.
Type in USA.
I'm sure that's what it's looking for.
Well, let's see what happens if we test it. It's been executed. It did not like what we did there.
Did you still have a connection alias picked?
I don't think we did, actually.
Yeah, up the top, use connection alias.
Yep. So
define
the connection in line. Yeah. And in the open API spec, it gave us the do we still need to populate the base URL?
Yeah, I think it's populated the resource path you can see down the bottom, but it hasn't given us the base URL.
Okay. So the base URL would be what do we think?
I like
one of these API URLs,
yeah, I like
right?
I like the bottom one, the fourth one.
All right.
Unversioned HTTPS.
Let's try that.
Go with their default version.
And then do we need a credential alias?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
So what is a connections and credentials alias while you're running that test? One of you fine gentlemen knows the answer to that, right?
I quite like them. They're the ability for you to set up different connections and credentials based on the environment that your flow is running in. So you can set up a dev environment credential in your dev environment for ServiceNow and set up a production credential in your production instance. And then you can test in dev. And when you deploy it, it will use the production credential, which is, yeah, a really awesome feature of Flow Designer and IntegrationHub.
Nice. I concur, Doctor.
Well, speaking of credentials, it looks like that is our issue with this. We got an error. Missing credentials.
401 authentications required.
Yeah, OAuth credentials.
I had thought that this endpoint didn't require credentials, but clearly I was wrong.
And we all know that OAuth are the most fun credentials.
Let's go see how what kind of auth this system requires.
All right, well, here we go. About some document. You require an access token to try the API. Please log in and subscribe to the API.
Okay. Well, that was a step that I hadn't expected. I apologize.
Welcome to live coding happy hour.
Yeah, I thought I'd verified that this one didn't require that. All right. Well, we've got some choices here. We're still early enough to make these choices, which is, do we want to get an account here and deal with the access tokens, or do we want to build the rest of the framework that we were going to do? Anybody got any input here?
Andrew, do you want to create an account and see if you can get us an access token? And then at the same time, we'll go ahead and set up the scripted REST API.
Absolutely. Let's do it. So I will go and see if I can get that done.
All right. So we're going to multitask here.
Yeah, we're multitasking. So we're delegating, right? We're dividing and conquering.
Multi-thread.
Right. So I think what we are wanting to do with this is we're going to get some sort of data back in this REST step, and then we'll probably parse it somehow. But maybe for now, we add a script step, and we can just create an output, and then we can take that output, throw it in a scripted REST API, or call this from a scripted REST API. What kind of outputs do we want from this REST step? So let's look again at what we have available here. I don't remember exactly what our requirement is for getting COVID data. So we've got what looks like about 8 different possibilities here. Active cases, maybe today's. I think we wanted some data around today's cases. So maybe we can grab, how many cases our country has today. And here we will just say outputs dot today cases equals some number. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds good. So we're going to pass in the input and output variables, and just for completion's sake. So from the REST step, we'll want the response body into this script, and then from the script, we'll want the today cases. So we haven't actually created those variables.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't quite know what we're getting out of that REST step, and we'll
Every
pass
REST
that
step
into our.
Just returns the response body. So the script step that we're looking at will have to parse that response body.
All right. So let's do that. So we'll say, let's just do something like. Then we have to. That's fine. Wow. Typing on live code today is it's been kind of rough. So let's save, and then all right, we're gonna do some pasting. Oh, value. All right.
Yeah, no capital R on that one. Yeah.
I was thinking label and the name.
Mm-hmm.
So let's grab the response body from the REST step. There we go. So we are setting the input variable for this action to the response body from our REST step. And then we're going to grab it from right here. And because I have learned this from Andrew, I'm going to copy paste. And we will set that. And then we're going to do something in between here. But we will set some outputs to today cases. And then we also need to set that here. This is where I wanted to make a friendly name. Oh, I can't, I just can't. All right. We want to make this a number. I think we probably do. Can we not use camel case in our?
It looks like it highly recommends you use a lowercase.
All right. Well, I'm gonna use an underscore then. Okay. So we'll save that. I save a lot because when you don't save a lot, you lose things. and maybe I have lost some things before. So we're going to put the output of our action is going to be today's cases. And that's going to be an integer.
Hey, Brad, could you get me, could you go over to connections and credentials and get me the callback URL for your instance?
All right.
So it's basically going to be your instance name, and then it's like redirect _ OAuth, something like that. Actually, the best place to get to that is, yeah, go to an existing one under not application registries.
Let's see.
I think that's the right place.
Yeah, for OAuth. I don't think that's going to give you. So you want the.
I want the redirect URL, and if you could just throw that in the chat for me, or anywhere you can get it to me.
I can Slack it to you.
Thank you, sir. And I'll let you resume where you were at, and I'll finish getting our credentials.
Okay. So did we finish this? Do we need to map this script step to the outputs, or did we do that already?
I think we need to map the data.
Do that already. There we go. Hey, that looks right. All right, so we know that this is not going to work, so we should not test it. But what we want to do is we want to kick it off from a scripted REST API.
Didn't we manually set a number so it might work?
I don't think it'll authenticate. So the script step will work, but our REST step's going to error out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's going to run. We should be able to generate. I know theoretically that we can generate some code that we can then use, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, so it's right there, but you have to be in a published state to get to it.
Boom. We can do that.
And so we're going to be calling the action direct. We're not calling a flow or a subflow or any other thing.
Yeah, I think we want to just call the action. I'm not sure we need a flow for this. So it's going to give us some code to call the action. We are going to want to call it synchronously, so I don't think we're going to have to change this much. But let's click the button. I copied it already, but let's click the button. So we're going to go and create a scripted REST API, or a SRAPI, if we want to say it shorthand. So we're creating the scripted REST API because our components are going to communicate with ServiceNow through an HTTP effect, and so they're going to need a scripted REST API. So I'm not very creative, so let's just say we're going to call this our COVID endpoint. We don't need to give it a protection policy. All right, so it has been a little while since I have written a scripted REST API, but I think we're on the right track. So what were we getting? We're getting country totals, today's cases. So we'll say today cases. I'm going to save that. And then this is where we want to put the code that we're going to hit. Inputs country. So we're going to
probably want to use the request.
Yes.
Input to get, yeah.
So if we say request.country, we'll have to define that.
Yeah, do we want to
down here
pass this in with a query string parameter or in a header or in the URL?
It's a good question. What do you guys think?
These scripted REST APIs, we can do just about anything. And because we're controlling the client side and the server side, it's extra flexible.
How's our component going to look? Are we going to have like a drop down that we can pick the country that we want to check, or are we just going to get them all?
That's a good question. I think we will send a country from the component, whether we, I mean, a drop down sounds nice, but I think we probably want to give the component a way to specify a country, right?
Sure. So I mean, my first one is always the request body.
So let's save here. All right.
So I think down the very bottom, the related list, query parameter associations.
Yeah, so these get defined at the higher level across the whole scripted REST API, and then you can reuse them in any or all of your various methods.
There we go. So we'll go back and define one of these.
Yeah, and those I think are largely just so that the scripted REST API Explorer looks really good when you're in there using it. You can do it completely in code too if you don't need to use that REST API Explorer feature.
I think most of our endpoints will ask for what country we're looking at, so maybe it is a good idea to set up one of those.
All right. All right. I'm going to go back to the beginning here. And we'll define our query parameter. I don't know what an example value is, so I'm not going to put that there.
Should we have a quick look at the API and work out what format it's expecting?
That's probably a good idea.
My money is on 2-character country code.
So today cases. So we're in the API console here. I think we were looking at today cases. So,
oh, string.
Country, here we go. It's, oh, it looks like there's just a specific set of countries here. And US is US. Interesting. World. I don't think Europe is a country.
So if we hit try it out, does it work there in the browser?
So let's, did I highlight one? All right,
it would if we had a token.
So I have not successfully gotten the token loaded in our instance, but I did generate you a token that you could just use if you just plop it right in your flow, Brad.
Right. And
so if you create a header,
it to me.
I did. I sent it to you, and if you here in your header area add a authorization header, you should be able to leverage that.
So authorization token.
I think that's just going to be authorization, and then we'll probably have a prefix of bearer or
bearer. So it'll be the authorization and then bearer and then what I sent you.
So that's in the
That'll be in the
value.
value.
In the value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bearer
Bearer.
and then what I sent you separated by a space will be in the value.
All right.
So I got really close to getting the OAuth done, but I decided to just give you a token.
As long as the lifespan of this is not 10 seconds, will be great.
And I can revoke it. So
All right. So we know that US was US. So let's see what happens here. Completed. Let's look at our steps, and method failed, invalid username password combo.
really, look at what it sent and see if maybe I sent you something, because I tried it out locally and it worked. So if you could pull open the header and see what we sent them. Is this the header? Oh, it is.
I believe so.
I'm having a struggle seeing that. Let me zoom. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not.
Don't tweak your end.
All right.
Okay. Don't know if capital A would make any difference.
Yeah, capital A absolutely makes a difference.
Well,
HTTP headers are very sensitive. And bearer should also be capitalized. Sorry.
it's all right.
We get so used to in the ServiceNow space, capitalization's more like a suggestion. I'm crossing my fingers.
All right, and hey,
Ha 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 ha.
200, such a pretty number.
Everyone drink for success.
Everybody drink for success there. I apologize for not having that.
The 200 is the status code, by the way.
All right. Where's our response body?
We actually didn't get anything.
So he said he was happy, but he didn't give us anything.
He didn't yell at us.
Did we pass in the query?
Ooh, I don't know. We may have.
Yeah,
Query
we did.
parameters.
Yeah, country US. Today cases.
Maybe we should try total cases, and maybe they haven't updated their data for today.
So we did today cases and we passed in. Let's validate. It was US. Okay. Here, let's.
Yeah, go ahead and try it out and see what they say.
You'll have to paste your token up the top.
Yeah. If you paste the token up there,
Yes.
You should get a valid. So it's really nice when systems provide things like this. So now you just need to hit try it out and we should hopefully get a valid. And we got a response.
It's consistent.
It is consistent. That's good though. So maybe there just isn't any US data for today.
So maybe try a different country, see if it's different. No, let's.
And I know there was
we're only
data
an hour in. The date time stamp on there, it looks like it was 1:40.
So just try
AM.
cases,
All right.
like the top one.
Cases. Let's go world. Whoop. Oh, I can multi-select.
Hey,
There
that's a
you
bit
go.
better.
We've got some response.
Hey.
Nice. So now let's
All right.
adjust that in our ServiceNow side, and then we can pick up from there.
All right. So we're
And
changing
then
this.
the nice thing
to-
is with having that open API, we can just switch to I believe that's active cases. Is what they
Total
call that
of
one.
active cases.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the active cases call.
Active cases. I don't think that affected anything.
It changed your header, so it removed that authorization.
Of course it did, because
Yeah.
we don't have any spelling errors or anything. It's cool.
So we'll add a new one there.
Authorization. Capital B, because I learned.
Nice. And then we save it and run it.
Test. What did we? Let's go world.
World.
I think that was one of the options. All right, and
Sweet.
response body. Hey,
look at that. Nice.
200 and that's 2,467,875.
So now we've got a valid response from the server. And where did y'all get with the script step for the so what format is the response body? So I got a little lost getting OAuth stuff done. Where are we at? Catch me up.
We did not know exactly what we were getting from the response body. So we just used response body, and then we didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
Now we know.
Now we know.
Mhm.
We have an array of objects, it looks like.
Yeah. So what do we want to do with it? We've got
You want to get
10 minutes to do things.
The JSON parser a try for it?
Ooh.
Mhm.
It's risky.
I did this for another endpoint that I was playing with about 6 times last week, so I'm all over it.
Do you not have that?
Do I not have the
parser.
JSON parser?
There is no JSON parser. It's just JSON.parse in your script step.
No, there is one. It's Orlando.
There's an XML parser.
I'm not crazy, right?
I thought there was one too.
I think there is one in its new step in Orlando, and you just haven't updated it in your instance there. That's what I suspect. Let me see. Well, we could parse it in the script. Go ahead. Let's parse it in the script.
All right. So our response body is an array of objects. There's only one object in there. Well, let's look at it. So we want to...
I think you could select multiples. Like, remember when you clicked in the drop-down box and picked a whole bunch?
Well, let's go. Whoa, sure. Oh, now it's empty.
And empty with a 200.
That's curious.
When you multi-selected the country?
Yeah.
Let's go Europe and world and try it one more time.
That seems like a UI issue, not the API is not accepting that.
All right.
It wants
Let's not get hung up on it.
It wants one and only one.
Yeah, but we saw the square brackets for the array and the curly brackets for the objects. In theory, there would be multiple curly bracket objects inside, but should we just assume we're going to only have one?
Let's assume we're only going to have one.
All right.
Because we'll only take in one, and so we're going to assume we'll do one.
So we didn't get it there. Let's see what it's going to look like. Did our header expire? What's going on here?
We're still getting 200s.
Try world again.
Hey, there we go. So if we just look for data, it looks like is where our number lies.
Yeah, let's just grab the data because that's what we want.
I mean, we could do this real dirty.
Dave Slusher has just jumped into chat and said, you have the implicit JSON parser by making the output a complex object and then just passing the response
we could just
body
pass the response body into the output.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So the output variable down there, we want to turn into an object, and then we just put output.
If we wanted to output the
whole object.
The whole object.
Yeah.
I think in our case, we only want the cases.
That's a good tip, though, if you did want the entire object.
Mm.
So let's just grab the cases. So you want to JSON parse your response body and then grab the cases?
Yeah. Is it already?
Naming stuff, huh?
Yeah.
How many of ours do we want to name here in the show? We want to call it country object, country OBJ, country.
You know what? That works for me.
Yeah.
So is that going to work?
Yeah, that looks good.
Yep.
And then one more.
And then just do the output. Today's cases equals.
Very good.
And it was just data, right?
Well, it's an array of objects.
It's an array.
So we have to go into item 0 first.
Yeah. And today's cases is named and it's an integer. And now we need two outputs to the output of the action. Unless you've already done that.
I think we've already.
Did that.
Sweet.
Yes.
Sweet.
So let's test it.
And world seems to be our best option.
Mm-hmm.
Known working is good place to start from when you're adding new things to it.
Hey, that looks good.
Nice. And we already have the invocation of this action in our scripted REST, or did we just talk about that and not do it yet?
We were close.
We were close.
We copied and pasted from the old action. I'm not sure if we need to
I don't think we need to redo it. So
the inputs and the outputs were the same names.
All right, so we have our country. We just needed to add it to the query parameters, right? So theoretically, we should be able to consume this.
And we could go to the API Explorer and try that.
The REST API Explorer.
So if you've never been there, the ServiceNow provides sort of like you saw on the API that we're visiting, the external one, they had an API sort of simulator there. This is ServiceNow's, and it's super useful when dealing with integrations to figure out the ServiceNow bit of it first internally inside this API Explorer. So this is going to be under, you're going to need to change the namespace, right? The namespace first. And that's going to be, yeah.
There we go.
I think Chuck has just pointed out that from the scripted REST API, you can click straight to the API Explorer.
You can.
Yes.
There's a button for that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
so
let's click it and see what happens.
Okay.
Earl in the chat has a good point. I think we might need to tweak our scripted REST API or Serapi to get that country code mapped properly over to the activity. the action.
That's probably true. But
Yeah.
I think we're at a relatively good part where we can talk about what we need to do next.
Well,
Nothing. Haha.
it's blank, but we didn't get an error.
We got
So,
a 200.
Drop over into Integration Hub and check out the executions for your action. And then that'll be the last thing that we do in the screen share.
I do that from here?
Right from your action, you can drop into executions there.
Executions.
And then we'll sort by created and go to the last one. And hopefully, if there was one just now, sweet.
In progress. Serialization error. The undefined value has no properties. Oh, it's the same.
So in the step,
Probably was a scripted REST API error.
Yeah, country looks like blank.
We didn't pass in to the action.
Should we look at it real quick? Oh, that's right. We did not. Okay. Request.country and
and request has a lot of different things underneath it. For the post body, the headers, the query string. So we'll need to put some more things in between request and country.
Yep. All right, so let's stop the screen share and go back to video.
All right, I will stop the screen share.
All right. So one of the reasons that I wanted to use the API, the scripted REST API here, was that there's a couple of scenarios here for my component. So in the design of my component, I wanted to be able to hit a consistent endpoint, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. So for example, if the API that we're trying to consume changes, I can change that in Flow Designer, right? So I can adjust that. Not only can we, manipulate that data if we needed to from the response, we were also intending on doing like 2 or 3 calls together to send them all at once to my component. But if that endpoint changes or if that whole integration changes, that's no problem. I can just change out what my scripted REST API is doing, but keeps that consistent. I'm asking from the component, and I'm providing this to the component, and I can switch it out in the back end. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do that scripted REST API. Again, I'm sorry about the authentication. I really thought there was an authentication for this, but we got it worked out. It wouldn't be live code happy hour if we didn't run into unexpected errors. We get expected errors, and then there's unexpected errors. So that was great, Brad. Thanks for walking us through that. We got pretty close to where we wanted to get to today. We're going to pick this back up on Friday. So when we started about an hour ago, 48 hours from that, so 47 hours from now, we'll pick back up again, and we'll probably finish this part of it, wiring up that REST, the scripted REST API to the flow, the action from Flow Designer, and getting our response. And we'll start from the component building there. So anything else that I didn't cover there that you guys wanted to share about that?
No, thanks to everybody for sticking with us. It's obvious that we did not script this. Maybe we didn't know what we were going to be doing today as of a few hours ago. Maybe not. Who knows? But on Friday we'll be looking at the component side of this, and I think we'll have this piece of it working by then, hopefully.
All
I think
right.
it's a testament to how quickly you can get stuff done with Flow Designer and IntegrationHub, that even though we had a whole bunch of problems, we've still got an endpoint up and running, and we're getting data from the web.
Yeah, and if we were, using one of the already built spokes, for example, it would have been even easier, right? So that's one of the things we as developers, we build these spokes for folks to consume quickly. And Flow Designer and Integration Hub helps us build those quickly, but also the pre-built ones, pretty awesome. Thank you everybody for participating in the chat. Come see us again on Friday. We do the show almost every Friday. Let's finish off with our ratings of our drinks. Brad, how was your drink today? So we use a 5-point scale in quarter increments.
Well, my core dump was pretty good. I used one of my favorite gins, which is Uncle Val's. So that's most of what was in there. Yeah, let's call it a 4.25.
Ooh, a 4.25. Awesome. And how was your lovely morning beverage of choice, Andrew?
It was good. That was my triple espresso. I would say probably a 4.5 because I'm feeling pretty perky now.
Nice. And you, Jared?
Very good. I'll give this a solid 4.0 for the lime sparkling.
Sparkling lime. And my blueberry boyfriend with the very, very interesting label. It was good. I didn't know it was a sour when I was starting, but it was a sour, and I like a good sour. So it's a solid 4 for me. So I hope you have enjoyed CreatorCon this week, and continuing on, if you're catching this later, that you're enjoying the on-demand content we're providing here in ServiceNow in this virtual knowledge and CreatorCon week. We have more things later on coming. I know I wrapped up my workshop, my first one today, and in 4 weeks, I'll have my second one, which will be on component building. I want to thank Jared, Andrew, Brad, and the audience for joining us today. Thanks, everybody. Have a most wonderful and great Knowledge 20.
Cheers.
See you later.
Cheers.